Hi everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be looking at some context for episode 5 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Hopefully you've been keeping up well with the show. But yeah, we're just going to get right into it. Of course, I'm going to put this spoiler alert here, as I always do, just in case you're watching this and you have not seen episodes 1 through 4. And at this point, I'm not really quite sure if much of this is going to spoil MCU series and films in the past. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off by recapping the last episode, as we always do, and we're just going to go over episode 4 here. We open with the flashback of Bucky in Wakanda and Io helping him out with his mental stability. Of course, it opened up with that because the episode before ended with Io, and it was just explaining how she and Bucky go back. So now, after the flashback, Sam, Bucky, and Zemo, they're still working together. They're trying to get information on where Donya Madani's funeral is, just because they know that's where Carly is going to be. But all these kids are like turning them down and not sharing with them, except for this one girl tells Zemo. But John and Lamar show up, and now they're kind of an obstacle. They've just been pretty pissed off because of how left in the dark they've been, how Sam and Bucky haven't really been telling them much, and they don't want to work independently anymore. They want to be just as caught up as everyone else. So they find the funeral. They find Carly. Sam pleads with John to just talk to her alone. Sam really just wants to understand what she's going through and what her intentions are and how he can really change that. So they talk about morals and what it really means to be a supremacist, and Carly doesn't think she is, and Sam is trying to convince her that she's just going in the wrong direction. And while they're talking, John Walker, he barges in, and Carly is now convinced that Sam was setting her up to be arrested when really that's not what was happening. And so she runs away. She was able to hold them off because, again, she's a super soldier, and she's eventually stopped and shot by Zemo, multiple times shot, and she's almost incapacitated, but she gets up because Zemo gets distracted with the super soldier serum vials that are on the ground, and he starts shattering them with his foot. But then John shows up in that room and chucks his shield at Zemo, knocking him out. And he's taking a look at the serum, the vials, and he pockets one of them. And then again, the Dora Milaje, they're still getting impatient. They just want to take Zemo in. They want him arrested again for the death of their king. Now, Lamar and John, they've now separated from the rest of the group, and they're talking about how the serum could give them so much power and authority and the ability to do what they want in all these missions, because they've not made a lot of progress compared to Sam and Bucky, and they want to be a part of it, and they really just want to get it done, no questions asked. They want to arrest Carly. So they're talking about how intriguing the serum is. And Carly, she's also getting mad because she thinks she keeps getting manipulated when really Sam was trying to understand her story. And what she does is she calls Sam's sister Sarah, and that is used to intimidate Sam, who then gets pissed and wants to meet with Carly, and Carly wants him to meet with her alone, but he brings Bucky instead. Now, this all was really just to get John Walker alone because, well, Sharon Carter, she was in contact with Sam and Bucky at the time during this meeting, and she said that she was tracking John Walker, and John was close by, and really Carly just wanted to get Sam and Bucky away from John so that the Flag Smashers could move in and kill John. Now, this doesn't really work. There's a big chase and then a fight, and Lamar is briefly captured, but then he joins the fight, and he saves John when Carly rushes at him with a knife. And as a consequence, he is chucked against the column in, or the beam, whatever it is, in that building, and he dies right there on the spot. And at this point, John is fuming because, well, his friend was just killed, and he doesn't go after Carly. No, he doesn't go after the one who just killed his friend. He goes after Carly's fellow Flag Smasher, jabs into his chest with Captain America's shield, killing him, ending the episode with a very intense tone, obviously. So we're going to move on. This next thing we're going to talk about is really big picture stuff. It doesn't have a lot of relevance to the show itself, but we're just going to get into the comics a little bit. Part of the comics, which I don't know too much about, I've not read very many, but the Thunderbolts are basically who came after the Avengers, and that was organized by Zemo. And then the Secret Invasion happened, and that's when a lot of the superheroes within the Thunderbolts group began to be replaced. So kind of like the replacements to the Avengers are being replaced themselves. And then that led to the Dark Avengers, where Norman Osborn, who is usually known as the Green Goblin, well, he's also Iron Patriot, I believe is the name, and he starts that group. Now, you're wondering, this makes you wonder in the MCU, who's going to replace the Avengers and who is going to be the leader in this new group. Keep an eye out for that. I don't want to give away too much, but if you've seen Black Widow, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then you're going to know what I mean by this by the time you finish The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But yeah, just this is more for if you plan on watching future films in this franchise and even some future shows, probably. So, moving on. Now, episode 5, it's more about these confrontations. People need to address certain problems. I know that's what the whole show is kind of about, but this specifically, episode 5, in my opinion, for the most part, I think most would agree, it's pretty boring, but that's just because people need to make amends and they need to settle disputes. They got to meet with certain people. I know this sounds very vague, but you'll know what I mean. John, who has just killed a man, and not even the guilty party, he must face Sam and Bucky because he still has the shield. And also because of his actions, he must face the government, which will deal with what direction he goes in now with his rank and benefits and everything. Sam, like I said, has to go to John and try to get the shield back. He has to address the boat problem because he spent a lot of time away from that, and he wants to help his sister Sarah with that. And he still doesn't really know Isaiah Bradley's story, so he's going to go back to Baltimore and learn about him and see what he's all about. And then Bucky, yeah, he's going to go with Sam to try and get the shield, but he also is going to go to Zemo, and he's going to see what he can do. He has to make the choice between killing Zemo or handing him over to the Dora Milaje. Carly Morgenthau, she's trying to build her following still, and she's also made a deal with Batroc. We'll go over him in a second, but yeah, he's out for blood basically. And Zemo, he wants to go back to Sokovia, and he has to deal with the possible arrest by the Dora Milaje and possibly going back to a prison cell for a long time. So George Batroc, we're going to go over him. He appeared at the beginning of this show, but even back in 2014, he was hired by Nick Fury along with other mercenaries. All right, he's a mercenary. And basically him and a bunch of pirates were hired to hijack a SHIELD ship. Even though Nick Fury is from SHIELD, this was all just kind of a put on. It wasn't real, but most people thought it was real. Most people involved, and it was meant to keep the hostages fooled. And the strike team, and of course, along with Captain America, they were trying to rescue the hostages, but none of these people really know what's actually going on. So Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, this was all a distraction for her to gather intel on Project Insight. Remember, because this is the year that SHIELD was kind of being betrayed, and it was an inside job, and Nick Fury didn't really trust a lot of his co-workers. Now Batroc, he's hijacked the ship, but he's trying to escape it now because he realizes that the strike team has outnumbered him. And Batroc doesn't know why he was hired by Fury to do this. So, but he's just willing to go with it and get paid a lot. But he gets into a fight with Captain America, gets kind of wrecked in that, and he manages to escape. But after that, he's arrested by SHIELD, and then several years later, he is freed by the Power Broker. Now, I told you the Power Broker was going to be a problem, and we still don't know who that is. We don't know who the Power Broker is. It's still a mystery for you to solve or find out, whatever you can. But anyway, after that, he joined the LAF, and he, in 2024, which is where we're at now, at least in the context of the show, he organized the kidnapping of that Air Force captain in episode 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that's kind of where we're at now. You kind of see how he's involved with all of this. George Batroc, yeah, he's that's his comic book self, but he's like really an acrobat kind of who used those skills to harness his fighting ability. But yeah, so you are now ready to watch episode 5 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Of course, you might, at this point, you can probably guess how it's going to start, at least. But be prepared to be somewhat. It's going to be a little boring, honestly, but you should still be able to enjoy it a little bit. Maybe not so much in comparison to other episodes, but we'll see. That's up to how you view certain plot points and everything. But yeah, so you should still enjoy it. Honestly, it's a great bridge to take you from episode 4 to episode 6, which is the finale. But yeah, I will see you back here next time where we will go over what happens in episode 5, and I will set you up with any info you might need for episode 6, which will be the last episode. All right, I'll see you next time.